I want to be single again, whatever, and then want to go live the single life. Do you see that continuing? Especially with the online dating, and don't even get me started on the animatronics coming down the road not too long from now that everyone seems to be talking about at the moment, and the inevitability of where this is all going. Do you see it continuing, or do you see it like a pendulum's gonna swing back where people are
I,
gonna be
I'm
like,
sure it's got to swing back. I'm sure people eventually will become less fulfilled by the speed dating, or what do they call it? It's like that fast food dating, or the online connections and whatnot. I think ultimately people deeply desire to be chosen and cherished, and the way you do that is by building a life together and spending time together. I do believe though that resentments make it really difficult to want to set aside your pain and build a better relationship. And resentments inside of relationships are the biggest cause of the breakdown in commitment. And I have no idea. Like maybe all of this entire field of couples therapy and all of us couples therapists are just really snake oil salesmen. Like what if the reason why couples stay together is everyone's individual relationship to commitment? Like Quinton, are you a committed man? Are you like did you say in your head, I don't like an earthquake would literally need to happen in my marriage for me to bail out? But aside from like the worst case scenario happening, I'm in it for the long haul and I'm going to work on my relationship until death do us part, right? And if you're that type of person that's like, lock the door, throw away the key, I'm done. She's the only one I want and I'm never leaving. Like, do you need me as your couples therapist, right? Or is it like through sheer will, stubbornness, persistence, determination, which by the way, Quentin, will, persistence, determination, they are higher faculties. So we exist on three planes of dimension, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual, or the emotional, right? And will, persistence, determination, those are complex emotional, you know, states of mind, right? And so if you're that type of person that's committed, like, do I, as your couples therapist, can I teach you anything about commitment if you're already committed in the first place? Maybe you're even more committed than I am, right? Which brings up a really difficult thing, I think, for a lot of my peers, the couples therapists that have been through divorce. I think that would be really hard to demonstrate um, commitment while also being a divorced couples therapist, for example. I think that'd be a real challenge. My heart goes out to them because I'm sure that they didn't envision that for their relationship, but then they find themselves in that situation. Now relationships can end just because one person ends it, right? But when your calling card is teaching commitment, you got to be really careful about what you're doing in your own life, right? And so I think it's a challenge. I think everyone needs to understand what their level of commitment is in life and what their relationship to being committed really is and really means, right? So for me, like literally nothing aside from, I think, only infidelity or my wife completely canceling the physical connection in our relationship. I can't think of really anything my wife could do that would make me leave her. You know what I mean? That would turn me away from wanting to work until death do us part on repairing our connection. Like I'm not going anywhere, right? And they don't teach me that in school. No therapist could teach me that. It's just what an internal relationship I have with commitment. So I think everyone needs to explore and ask themselves, how committed are you? And if you want the best predictor of relationship success, and you asked, going back to those conversations you'd have with someone that you're dating, that you want to ask to marry, ask them and ask yourself and have a really deep conversation about what does commitment mean to you? Are you the type of person that no matter what happens, you're staying? Or are you the type of person that, the minute things get rough, you're going to start, you're going to get a secret Instagram account and start, trying to get, that hookup culture or whatever. You're going to try and like, step outside of your relationship, because that's not commitment. You can't be loyal and say you're committed, but then also, or you can't say you're committed, but then not be loyal and step outside of the relationship, because you haven't committed to the, to the vows of fidelity and transparency and honesty, right? So I think that's the most important question, is to understand everyone's individual relationship to commitment.
Probably one of the biggest criticisms, if I use that word, but just one of the things that I've seen the most. I don't want to. Criticism is not the right word. Just it kind of irks me. Let's put it that way. It just kind of grinds my gears a little bit about this whole conversation when people talk about, like, if you don't want to get married, look, I'm all about freedom. I'm like, as freedom as it gets. I can't, like, truly. Some would call me a libertarian, right? I'm just like, live and let live. I get it. So if you never want to get married, I get that. But a lot of times, especially in this influencer world, when people talk about that, they'll deflect from the question, and it drives me nuts. For example, you can see this everywhere, and that's the only reason why it came to my attention, is because it's so common now, where people will say, like, why don't you want to get married? And then they'll immediately deflect towards why other people shouldn't get married. Like, you don't know how to make money, you're out of shape, you're doing it. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm glad you just made the case about why the other person wasn't ready for the relationship. Why aren't you willing to commit, right? Or they'll say things like, well, I have the ability to take care of several women at a time, and I just think the root of that comes down to a lack of discipline. Because, like, great, you look like Hulk Hogan. You found discipline in that area of your life, but you forfeited the discipline, right, of pleasure or sexual desire. And they just haven't, and that's, again, live and let live. So you want to do your thing, all about it. But it's the cognitive dissonance that kind of grinds my gears. It's the way they respond, or when they're put on a pedestal for certain behavior with no clear rationale behind, and always deflecting. That's always made me go, oh my gosh, right? And that, I guess that would be in the red pill community, right? And the other thing that I see quite often is people talking about, like, I'm all about self-improvement. You can see the books on my bookshelf, right? I'm all about working hard, entrepreneurship. I get it, all of it. But I'm a firm believer, and I've had the ability to connect and know on a very intimate basis, people that have done very, very well for themselves. And every single one of them, not excluding even one, I'm talking about some of them are billionaires. When I ask them, what is the one thing? They have all said, you got to find the right spouse. When I was at the office until 2 a.m, literally, they were supportive, knowing that I wasn't just abandoning them, that I was doing this for us, for a better future, and they would bring me dinner late at 11:30 at night, or they would, like, the amount of times that I've heard this at this point tells me, right, talking about, like, a wise man learns from other people, like, that tells me that this idea of put your head down, ignore all women, go make hundreds of millions of dollars, and then find yourself a high-value woman. If it's me reading the signs, to quote, like, one of my favorite crazy relationship movies ever, Silver Linings Playbook, if it's me reading the signs, I'll tell you, I'm seeing the opposite. I'm finding people that married each other based on who they are and also who they want to be, and then grew together in partnership, settling into their roles, whatever that means, whatever those roles are, and then supporting each other along the way. That's what I've seen. And that's, like, the two things in this that I see that just makes me just go, hey man, if I was by myself, I wouldn't do it, but I happen to have a mic and I gotta share my thoughts on it. I think both of those sides, deflecting from getting married, showing a lack of discipline in sexuality, having total discipline in every area except that one, and then at the same time ignore all women, and just get better and find out how to value women. Again, live and let live. But these two sides of the same coin, I gotta tell you, I think they're bad ideas. And I think they're very prominent. And I get to a certain extent the root of what both sides are trying to say, but I think they're going about it in the wrong way. Now, for you as a couples therapist, and you just heard my little rant there, what did you hear? And maybe what would you tell me how I can maybe shift my perspective a bit on this? Because you can tell I've like actually thought about this, and it's not just on a whim.
Well, I go back to that couple that, because it's very similar to my relationship with my wife. I've sacrificed enormously time away from the kids, time away from her. By all means, she should be the one saying to me every single day, I'm all touched out because she's constantly with the kids, right? And now even more so, like now with everything that's happening on Instagram, and I just started my podcast yesterday, and stuff is going insane, and I'm even busier now than I want to be, and she's there every step of the way to ask me, how can I help you do more? How can I help you achieve your dreams more? And I think at the end of the day, what the glue that holds a couple together is these shared hopes and dreams that they have for one another. And I like to believe that everything is possible. Everything is possible for your relationship. Everything is possible for you. I'm working with a guy right now who's never really felt valued at work, and it's bleeding into the relationship to the point where he was seeking self-soothing behavior to kind of to compensate for his lack of being appreciated at work. And we're talking about him starting his own podcast and coaching young men to get that meaning out of life, and she's fully supportive. And it's when people are feeling emotional pain, they turn to the self-soothing behavior, and I think that's where the decay is. But if you're in communication with your spouse and you say everything is possible, no matter what we put our heads together, whether that, I'm not too old to start a podcast. Heck, I was 48 with like good amounts of gray hair on the side of my temples, thinning nonetheless, starting my Instagram channel to try and like help couples, right? Like I never thought that I would be on podcasts on a weekly basis and whatnot. And or even learning to surf at 46. I learned to surf at 46 instead of 16, right? And now it's like all that I'd love to do. You can do everything. And so I think a couple, no matter where they find themselves, and I had this one young woman reach out to me saying, she must have been probably like 17 or something. She had a child from her boyfriend, and the boyfriend's mom and sister and he are all telling her to give the baby up for adoption, as opposed to that was their attempted solution to the problem, as opposed to this 17-year-old young man stepping up, building a family with the woman that he just had a child with, right? Like this is the society that we're in. Like give the baby up, don't step up and take care of this woman and your child and go get a job. Like this is the message that we're sending people, right? And I think where all that stems from is this scarcity mindset that people have. I think people truly just walk around in a scarcity mindset that I can't do what I want to do. And so therefore I won't be successful. I won't try. And then this is where the emotional pain comes in. And then you get therapists like me trying to like process their pain, as opposed to flipping the script and saying, you know what, you can do everything that you want. Your relationship can be exactly the way you want it, right? All you guys have to do is build the image in your mind of what you truly want and then go out and get it. Like that's why you've got those books on your bookshelf, because in your mind you're thinking, I have this vision of me going out being a thought leader, a business leader, an entrepreneur, and my wife is going to be beside me. And I think you said, did you have a son or a daughter? And you said your son's going to be right with you, and the three of you are going to be together, and maybe you add another, another child into the mix. This is the vision that we have, and we're working towards this together. This is what couples need to do more of. They need to be speaking in terms of what's tomorrow going to look like. What do we want? Again, what do we want? So now you're talking about what you want on that individual level, and you should be talking about what we want on a relationship level. and then on a family level. And this is what I think people need to be doing more of, and couples need to be doing more of, adopting this abundance mindset that everything is possible, and not being limited by your own self-limiting beliefs and conditioning lies. So
What's going on, guys? If you like that clip right there, you will love the full interview. You can check that out right there. I'll see you on the next video. Oh, and subscribe, because we got a lot of big things coming up in the near future.